So I've done all parts of the bag. First of all, let's talk about the measurements of this bag. Okay, it measures in width. The main panel measures one part of it, measures 15 inches, 15 inches in width and 10 inches. So that's the measurement for this part of the bag. Okay, this part of the bag. So I'm going to attach in this asset. It's still leather, and it measures, this asset measures 3.5 by 15. The same width with this 15 inches, which is the same width width length with this. Okay, so first of all, to join them together, I'm just going to take one side of the width and I will join them, the right side facing the right side. If you have a clip, you can clip them in place. Okay, I'll just clip them. Oh, I've taken light. So one other thing you can do, you can just mark out the measurements, which is 1/2 inches. Okay, so I'll just mark out. Guys, I have taken light. I just have to open the windows. Okay, so I'll just measure at 5 inches. This is where I'm going to be sewing on the 5 inches. Good evening, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
How you dey?
Live. I'm live. I'm filming live.
Oh,
okay, yes, ma'am. So I'll just mark out 5 inches. So this way I'm going to be sewing on. So just give me a while, guys. Let me quickly open the window, but this place is a bit dark. So once you've marked it out like this, I'm just going to sew. So I'm just going to apply, since I'm working with leather, I want to apply a bit of oil so I won't have any challenges in sewing. Please, this bag is specifically for beginners. If you are new and you are learning how to sew bag, this is a very simple bag you can start with. It's a shopping tote bag, so we are not going to be attaching zipper. It's just a very simple play bag. So I'll first of all sew on it. Let me move the camera so you can see. So just make sure you sew on the line. You back stitch first. Make sure they are aligned. The asset panel is aligned to the other main panel. So I'm basically sewing on that line that I marked out, the 1/2 inch mark. So when I get to the edge, I'll just back stitch. Then I'll cut this out. I'll trim this excess out. So what I'm going to do, you can see this part that I've done here. Can you see this part of it? It's top stitched. So I top stitched it with white thread. So I'm just going to top stitch this one. So to top stitch, you see the way it is. After sewing them together, it's going to turn out like this. So if I want to top, since I want this one, this color, this nude color to top it, to be on top of this, I'll just fold it down like this. This is it, I folded it down. If you want this to be at the top, you fold it up. See, when you fold it up, you see this one is at the top. When you fold it down, this one becomes the top part. So I want this nude color to be at the top, so I'm just going to fold it down like this. So let's sew now. So one that you can always do when working with leather material, always apply matching oil either on your needle or the material you are working with. So I'm just going to apply some industrial matching oil. This is my industrial matching oil, so I just apply it. It will be easy for you to sew through. But if you are a beginner, you keep when you are not aware of these things, you make a lot of mistake. Like you keep having issue with your machine. But one way you can simplify that is using machine oil that will lubricate it and make it easy. So I'm just top stitching, and in this top stitching, what I'm doing here, can you see that the foot of my machine is at the edge of this? So that will give it a straight stitches and professional stitches. Let me just put it that way. Okay, just make sure you are watching so you can follow. So I'm just trying to top stitch. I want it to be very, very straight. So you take pins. Remember, it's an external stitch. So I'm just going to back stitch. I'll finish top stitching. I'll cut off my thread. So you can ask any question. I'm live with you now. So you can ask me any question if you have any issue concerning other bags that I've uploaded. You can ask any question with that chat. So this eye is turning out now. Okay, this eye is turning out. So what I'm going to do, you can see just the same way this one is. So the next thing we are just a simple shopping bag, and this bag is for beginners. If you are just starting, you can start with this. So I'm just going to sew the handle. So I've measured out the handle of the bag, and there's something very important I'm going to point out here. If you see this handle of this bag, you can see this one is very straight, okay, and this one is kind of can you see, it's not neat, it's kind of folded. So I remember when I had one of my apprentices, when she started learning, she was having issues like this. When she would sew her bag handles, they will be twisted like this. So one way to avoid this is to take your handle, bag handle. This one measures 18 inches by 2 inches. 18 inches in length by 2 inches. You don't just fold it. I'm going to fold it, and since this is 2 inches, when you fold it, it becomes 1 inch, okay? But you don't just fold it and start sewing, because when you do that, you're going to have something like this. Can you see how twisted it is? So the best thing you can do is either you apply your gum, your shoemaker gum, or you use your double-sided tape. Just apply at the middle. Don't apply at the edge, because when you apply at the edge, when sewing, the gum will just stick to the needle and you won't be able to sew. So you apply at the middle of this thing, wrong side. Thank God there's light. So you apply at the middle of the wrong side, then you fold it and sew. So I'm just going to do that now, and I'm going to use my hand. Please, I can't find my brush. So since I'm not going to take, I wouldn't want to take your time, I'll just quickly do everything. It's a very simple bag to make. Okay, so I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'm applying at the middle. Remember, I'm not applying at the edge, because I wouldn't want my machine needle to stick by the time I'm sewing. So these are tricks that you should adopt. That's why I said you people should follow me on live when I'm live streaming. So you can ask question, I will answer all your questions. At the same time, you see I'm doing it, because I'm not editing anything out. So this is how I do it. So my bags. So I'm just not using my brush. So you can see if you don't want to use gum, you can use your double-sided tape. Okay, you can use your double-sided tape. So I can now sew now, and I'm using a white thread. So I just fold it into two like this. You let it dry first so it can stick well. So once it's dried, you can use your hammer to hit it in place too. I'm just going to use my hand and do something like this. Okay, so I'm going to sew the both side. I'm going to sew from here to here, as well as from this place to this place. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm So what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply some matching oil. I always like applying matching oil to my leather. Just make it very, very easy for me while sewing. So I'll back stitch first. Sewing on the edges, so you can move them apart. If you see they are not aligned, and align them before you continue. And when you want to do that, make sure your needle is down, because if your needle is not down, the machine is going to move. Turn it like this and sew the other part. It didn't get to the edge. I'm just going to trim this other one off. Then let me sew the other part first. Now sew. Back stitch, and I'll raise the foot, then cut off this excess thread. You can use your firelight to burn if you want, so I just make it neat. Okay, and so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be sewing the hand of the bag, the handle, which is this handle here. So to know where you're going to place the handle, you're going to take a measurement from this place to this place. It's going to be 4 inches. Take note, this place to this place is 4 inches, while this place to this place is 2 inches. Here to here is 4 inches, here to here is 2 inches. That's what I'm going to do now. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to measure out the, let me get my chalk and my tape. So I'm going to take the measurement here to here, 4 inches. And one other thing you can do, if you don't want to measure, you can just lay them like this. Okay, and you use this previous one to determine the measurements. All right, so I'm going to measure out. Here to here is 4 inches. I'll take another 4 inches from this part. This is where we are placing our handles. It's a very simple bag that you can make as a beginner. You can start with this, and if you are somebody that like making bag, use this one for your shopping. So here to here is already 4 inches. From the up to the down, I'm going to measure another 2 inches on both sides. I'll take 2 inches from here. So these are where I'm going to be placing the handle. Okay, this is the handle. Now before I place the handle, can you see the difference between this handle and this handle? So you can see this one is straighter than this, or it's more straight than this. Reason being that I didn't apply gum here, and on this one I applied gum. So as I said, you can either apply shoemaker gum, or you can use your double-sided tape. So I'm just going to, let me close my gum so it doesn't get dried. So you place it, and this side of the handle, this side that is not raw, you can see this part is raw, it's going to be facing me, towards me, and this other side is going to be facing that way. So I'll just place it like this using the mark. Okay, if there's any excess coming out, you can trim off, guys. You can trim off. So just make sure you trim off and make the handle neat. Alright, so you can just take this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be sewing on these previous stitches I made so that it will be neat. Okay, I'm sewing on these previous stitches, and to know where I'm going to add this, you know, I'm going to be sewing a box or a rectangular shape. To know where it's going to add, you just measure 1.5 inches up. I'm not going to use chalk because when I use chalk it won't be obvious. I'll use my pen. I'll use my pen. Please, when using pen, make sure you use a pen that is erasable, pen that is cleanable. So I'll mark this. I'll take this other edge too. Okay, I'll take this other edge and pen just fell down. So I'll take this other edge. Sorry for that. I'll take this other edge and I'll mark it out. It's going to be 1.5 inches. So this where it's going to edge. So I'll just take it like this using the mark. So I'll place it like this. Then I'm going to be sewing on it. Just watch how I'm going to be sewing it. So like I said, I will use the previous mark I made. So just be careful, because in this one I'm going to be following that mark, that previous stitch. So you don't rush over it. Make sure you sew on that stitch. I don't want 2 lines of stitches. So I'll turn. Basically using my hand because I want the work to be neat. Remember, we have a limit. This 1.5 inch, that's where we are going to stop this. So this is a mark here. So I'll turn. Then I'll sew on that line. So what you can do, if you want a very clean work, you can just pull your thread out. Okay, cut it. You cut it, then you take your needle, your hand needle, okay, and pass the thread to the back. Then you can tie it at the back. That will give you a very neat work. Okay, let me just do that so you can see what I'm doing. So you pass the thread back. This other one too, you pass it back. So this is a very beginner friendly. If you are just learning how to make bag, please start with this. So I'm just going to tie this later. I'm going to tie this one later, or if you want you can tie it, because I wouldn't want to waste your time. So you cut out the thread. So I'm going to do the same here. And when sewing, if you want to sew the other part, make sure you straighten the hand so that it doesn't get twisted. So you do something like this. Make sure you straighten. Make sure you straighten so that it does not get twisted. So just do something like this. Okay. So don't make it twisted. Like, you just have to ensure that it's straightened. So I'm just going to place it here like this. Remember, there's a mark here, so I'll follow that process. Let me bring my thread out. Okay, sorry, I was using the wrong part. So, but when you twist it like this, it's going to be wrong. I mean, when you sew it like that, so I'm just going to sew. So make sure everything is well aligned before you start sewing. So I'll start sewing on the previous stitches. Please don't rush if you are just starting. So I will turn, ensuring that I'm following that stitches. Oh my god, I didn't bring my this thing down. Okay. Alright, that's the limit. That's where the chalk mark is. So I'm just going to sew a straight line. Then if you like, you can back stitch, or you can just pass it to the back and tie, just like I did just now. So depending on what you want, but passing it back to tie is always neater than back stitching. So I'll just cut off. Since I back stitch, I will not need to pass it to the back. So I'll cut off it so you can burn out the thread if you want. So here is it. Okay. So I'm just going to take the second part. Okay, I will align them like this. And once I align them, ensuring that when you align, ensure that this asset is aligned with this. That will give it a professional look. You can clip in place, guys. Take your other clip and clip. And if you are just starting out, you can just measure ½ inches down before you start sewing. Okay. So I'm just going to use my eyes to eyeball it and sew with ½ inches, a stitch of ½ inches. Then I'm just going to sew down. And then put small oil so it can go easily. Stitch. I'm going to do the same here. Ensure that this asset panel is aligned to this. Okay, you clip in place. Just clip. So I'm just going to sew with ½ inches seam allowance. As I said earlier, you can always make a measurement of ½ inch. If you cannot eyeball it, I'm going to eyeball it in this case. In this bag that we are making, we are not adding lining. It's just a simple shopping bag. You can back stitch here. Guys, just trim. So you can see that it seems a part of it was bigger, the measurement. So I'm going to trim off. It's not a problem to me. I just ensure when doing your own, you get an accurate measurement. I'm just going to trim like a bit off to just make it equal. Okay. So this is it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be sewing on like this point to this point on the bottom. We are almost getting there. It's a very simple bag, very simple bag to make. Okay, a very simple bag. It's a bag that you can sew without you having any bag idea or any sewing idea. So I'm just going to sew with the same seam allowance, which is half an inch. So back stitch. Back stitch. So this measurement was taken by my apprentice. I think you can see the errors there. But anyway, it's not really a problem to me. All I have to do is just to trim off that excess. But please, when taking your measurement, make sure everything is straight. Okay, so I'll just trim off. Then these parts that are showing out, I'll just trim them out. Okay, so the last part is you are going to take your bag to give your bag a kind of corner, a boss corner shape. I think that's what it's called. So you take your bag, you see this corner, you are going to make something like this, like a triangle. Okay, make sure it's well centered. You see, then you measure from this tip to this tip. You measure from this tip, so you can either use 2 inches. Let me show you what I'm saying. You can get like 2 inches or 2.5 inches. Okay, so if I'm to use 2.5 inches, it's around these stitches here. So that means I'm just going to sew on these stitches here. So if you feel it's too big, you can use 2 inches. In this case, I'm using 2.5 inches. Oh, my thread just got finished. I'm just going to use a black thread. I'll be using a white thread, sis. So I'll fix it. Enter this part so that the texture will be hard. I just want it to enter this. It will be tight. It won't be. I won't have a loose stitch when sewing. So I'll put it under the machine. Then I'll bring the thread out, down thread. Okay, just pull it out. Then, as I said, you're going to be sewing on this. Make sure it's like this. See what I did. This bag is very simple. I promise you. A very simple bag. It's a bag that you can just get at once. Not a difficult one. So this tutorial is just for beginners. You can see it's getting thicker because we are sewing plenty fabric together. So that's why you should use when sewing, make sure the size of the needle you are using is like size 20, size 23. I'm using size 23. Can move this one back. Okay, hope you can see what I'm doing. So I just use my hand. You can back stitch if you want. So I basically sew on it stitch that was there before. Or if you don't want to sew on that stitch and if it's too big, the measurement, you can use 2 inches because I just used 2.5 inches. Okay, so we're going to do the last one. This is just the last one. Do the same thing we did here. Just fold it like this to give it a boss corner shape. See the shape that tote bags usually have. So let me take the measurement again. I'm going to sew on this stitch, but this measurement from this point to this stitch part is 2.5. You can always use whatever you want. You can use 1.5, you can use 2. So if you measure it, see, it's 2.5. So I'm just going to make sure this thread is out. So ensure that it's not there's no loops here, so just take pains. It's not difficult. It's a very simple bag. So I'll back stitch. Back stitch, then I'll sew on these stitches. So if you want to make any adjustments, make sure your needle is down, please. I didn't ensure my needle was done, so it's moved. So you can move it this way. Oh, see? Always make sure your needle is down. Back stitch. So you make sure your needle is down. So you back stitch. Okay. So guys, I'm through. We are done. I told you it's a very simple bag. So let's turn it out and see the outcome of this bag. See, this is what I call the boss corner shape. The boss corner shape. So if you like, you can trim this part off, but I want this bag to be thick, so I wouldn't want to trim it off. Just leave it. If you want it to be lighter, you can trim it off. It's a very simple bag you can make for yourself. See? If you like, you can put something like a flap. Let me show you something. You can put a flap. If you want it to have, if you want it to be secure, you can put a flap, then put your magnetic snap here, then you put the female magnetic snap here, so you'll be able to secure it. And just for beginners, and just to show you how to make a shopping bag. And if you feel this one is too small, you can make it bigger. Let me put something, because it's like that's why it's looking like it. So let me just put some stuff, stock some stuff into it, so you can see how fine it's going to be. So this is like the article. Guys, so please subscribe to my channel if you have not, and make sure you come, make sure you join me whenever I'm on live streaming, so that you'll be able to ask me whatever question that you are finding difficult to ask. Okay, bye bye, have a nice time.